Captured in the dark. The sky was burning. Elias lay flat on the cracked earth, his body heavy with pain. Smoke rose from the ruins of the outpost. Laser beams had scorched the sand black, and the distant sound of warships still echoed like thunder. The human base was gone. Everyone was either dead or missing. His vision blurred. Blood trickled down his forehead. He tried to lift his head but failed. Then, he heard footsteps. Not human, not boots. These were soft, smooth, and fast, like claws tapping against stone. Shadows appeared around him. Tall, thin figures with glowing eyes and armored skin. Aliens. The enemy. One leaned close to him. Its voice was cold. "This one lives." A sharp sting hit his neck. A tranquilizer. Darkness swallowed him again. When Elias opened his eyes, he was no longer on the battlefield. He was lying on a cold metal bed in a dimly lit room. His arms were strapped. A green light blinked above his head. The air smelled strange, like burnt silver and old blood. He was inside the alien fortress. Slowly he turned his head and saw her. A young alien female stood near the wall watching him. She had silver skin with glowing blue lines running across her face and arms. Her long white hair floated slightly as if pulled by energy. Unlike the others, she didn't carry a weapon. She looked curious. Their eyes met. She didn't speak. Neither did he. After a long silence, she finally asked, "You're the human?" Her voice was soft and unsure, almost like she was asking herself. Elias nodded, his throat dry. "Yeah, I guess I am." She stepped closer. "I am Serena, daughter of House Valrex. I was told to guard you." "Great," Elias muttered, trying to sit up. "Babysitter duty." She tilted her head, confused. "Babysitter?" He gave a tired smile. "Never mind." Serena didn't laugh, but her lips moved slightly, like she wanted to. Later, a group of alien soldiers came to inspect him. They poked, scanned, and spoke in a language Elias couldn't understand. Serena stood silently in the corner, eyes watching everyone. When they left, she approached with a small device in her hand. "Pain relief," she said, offering it. Elias hesitated. It could be poison. But her eyes didn't lie. They were calm, gentle. He took the device and placed it against his chest. A soft warmth spread through his body. The pain faded a little. "Thanks," he whispered. She nodded, then sat near the door holding her staff. Over the next few days, Elias remained in the cell. No torture, no interrogation, just silence. And Serena. She visited every day. Sometimes she brought food, sometimes just watched him. At first, Elias said nothing, but over time they spoke. Small words, simple sentences. He told her about Earth, about oceans, forests, music, and dogs. She told him about her world, how their moons never stopped glowing, how their queens ruled through fear, and how humans were seen as wild animals. "But you're not wild," she said one night. "You're strange, soft, but strong." Elias chuckled. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a while." She looked down, her cheeks glowing faintly blue. One evening, a loud alarm echoed through the prison. Something was wrong. Elias stood quickly, ready to defend himself. Serena burst into the room. "Stay here," she ordered. "No," Elias said. "You're alone. I don't need your help." "Too bad," he replied, grabbing a metal bar from the floor. Together they moved down the hallway. Two strange beasts, massive, four-legged creatures, had broken into the lower prison chambers. Serena fought fiercely, her staff glowing with light. Elias covered her back, swinging wildly at anything that moved. They didn't speak. They moved like a team. Finally, the beasts were down. Breathing hard, Serena turned to him. "You fought like one of us." "I fought for you," he replied. Her eyes widened. For a moment, everything was still. Then, A soft hum passed between them. A warm pulse. His skin glowed faintly. So did hers. She gasped. "Your touch," she whispered. It triggered the mark. "What mark?" She didn't answer. Instead, she backed away slowly. "I have to go," she said, and ran into the shadows. Elias sat down on the cold floor, heart pounding. Something had changed. Something deep and ancient. The language of pain and trust. The fortress was silent, but Elias could feel the storm growing inside its walls. Ever since that strange light passed between him and Serena, everything had changed. The guards were colder. The food was late. The air felt tense. It was as if the entire place could feel something unnatural had happened. Elias sat on the metal floor of his cell, his back against the wall. He touched his chest where the strange warmth had pulsed through him the night before. His skin no longer glowed, but the memory burned strong. Serena hadn't returned, not since she ran into the shadows. He didn't know if she was scared, or if she was being punished. A full day passed, then without warning the door hissed open. Elias stood quickly, expecting guards. But it was her. Serena stepped inside quietly, her eyes tired, her expression unreadable. "You're back," Elias said, his voice calm but uncertain. She didn't answer. She walked past him and placed a small box on the floor. "Food," she said simply. Elias looked down at it. It wasn't the usual gray paste they gave him. This was warm, fresh. A sweet scent filled the air. Some kind of alien fruit stew. "Did you make this?" he asked. She nodded once. "It's what my people give to the wounded." Elias didn't know what to say. He sat and took a bite. It was strange, but good. Spicy, then cool. Like nothing he'd tasted before. As he ate, she stood quietly, then finally sat across from him. "There's something wrong," he said. She looked up. "I'm being watched." "Because of that light?" "Yes," she said, her voice low. "The bond has started." Elias frowned. "What bond?" Serena hesitated. "Long ago, our ancestors spoke of a sacred connection, a soul bond. It only happens once in a lifetime when two beings understand each other in ways no one else can." He blinked. "You're saying we're bonded?" "It shouldn't be possible," she said. "Not between a human and an Athari." "Athari?" Elias asked. "My people?" "Right," he said slowly. "So, is that bad?" She looked down at her hands. "Yes, very bad. Later that night." She returned again. This time she brought a translator. It was a small earpiece. "You should understand me more clearly now," she said. He placed it in his ear, and her voice became clearer, smoother, like music. She sat beside him, closer than before. "There are words I want you to hear properly," she said. "Not through guessing. Not through silence." He nodded. "Then tell me. I'll listen." She stared at the floor. "My brother was killed by humans." Elias froze. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "I was only 8, she continued. "He was a guard. He believed humans could change. He helped one escape. The Queen found out. He was removed. My family was shamed." Elias remained quiet. This pain was old, deep. Serena looked at him. "When I saw you, I wanted to hate you, but you didn't fight, you didn't curse, you just sat there." "I was tired," he smiled, "and scared. That's what confused me," she whispered. "You weren't what I expected." He reached out slightly but didn't touch her. "And you're not what I expected either." She finally looked up at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "I think," she said slowly, "the bond didn't begin because of magic, but because we both lost something." Over the next few days, Serena visited more often. They spoke of many things, of life, death, hope, and what came after war. Elias told her about his little sister on Earth, how he used to protect her, how she cried when he joined the Space Forces. Serena told him about her mother, who once led a rebellion against the Queen and failed. They laughed at strange things, like the fact that humans sneeze so loud, or that Ithari sleep upside down in their own chambers, hanging like living wind chimes. The bond grew stronger. One evening, Serena touched his shoulder while helping him up. And again, the warmth passed between them. This time, brighter. Their skins glowed, but this time they didn't run. They stood there, eyes locked. "What do we do now?" Elias asked. Serena's voice trembled, but she didn't step away. "We don't lie," she said. Not to each other, but outside the room, someone was watching. A red light blinked in the corner, a hidden eye of the Queen's spies. Back in the throne hall, the image of Elias and Serena's bond was being transmitted directly to Queen Virea. She sat on her high seat, gripping the armrest tightly. "A soul bond, with a human," she whispered in disbelief. "This cannot be allowed." Her eyes narrowed. "Prepare the separation protocol," she ordered. The guards bowed. "Tonight," she added, "before the bond becomes irreversible, marked by the bond." Elias woke to the sound of boots, many boots, marching fast. The door of his cell slammed open. Before he could speak, 2 alien guards grabbed him roughly. His wrists were bound again, tighter this time. He struggled, but they didn't say a word. Serena was nowhere to be seen. "Where is she?" he shouted, but they didn't answer. His heart pounded. Something was wrong. Serena stood before the throne, her hands clenched behind her back. Queen Virea's tall, slender figure loomed above her. Her long robe shimmered like fire, and her eyes were cold, colder than space. "You've broken the law," the Queen said sharply. Serena didn't flinch. "What law?" "You bonded with a human," the Queen hissed. "An enemy." "I didn't. Choose it." "Lies," the Queen snapped. "You let it happen, and now you carry the mark." Serena's breath caught. "You saw it?" The Queen raised her hand. A glowing blue orb floated above her palm. Inside it, the image of Serena and Elias, touching, glowing, bonding, played like a memory. "This bond is ancient," the Queen said, voice low. "But forbidden." Serena stood firm. "It is not evil. It is chaos," the Queen said. "And it ends tonight." Elias was dragged into a new chamber, a cold metal room filled with strange machines. He saw cables, scanners, glowing plates with alien text. He was thrown into a chair. Metal cuffs clamped around his arms and legs. A long needle extended from the ceiling, pointing at his head. "What is this?" he shouted. A tall alien scientist stepped forward. "You carry a mark," he said. "The bond must be cut." Elias's eyes widened. "You mean removed?" "If we act now," the scientist replied, "you may survive. And Serena, she'll forget you." Meanwhile, Serena sat in her quarters, her hands shaking. She had been told to remain inside. No visitors, no movement. A polite way of saying, "You are under arrest." She looked at the mark on her wrist. A faint glow pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. It had appeared only last night after she touched Elias, the ancient sign of a soul bond. Once formed, it could not be faked. It connected feelings, thoughts, and sometimes life itself. Serena stood and paced. She had read old stories. Bonds like these used to bring peace. 1,000 years ago, Ithari and humans fought side by side, soul-bonded like warriors of fate. But then fear, betrayal, and politics erased the past. The Queens rewrote history. Now the bond was feared. Now it was punished. Back in the lab, the needle lowered toward Elias's head. He closed his eyes, waiting for pain. But suddenly, an explosion shook the wall. The room burst into flashing red. Lights. Alarms blared. A blast door was torn open, and standing in the smoke was Serena. She held a glowing blade in one hand, her staff in the other. "Step away from him," she said. The scientist backed up. "You'll be exiled." "I'd rather be exiled," she growled, "than let you destroy what I can't even explain." She rushed forward, slicing the cables that held Elias down. The machine sparked. He fell into her arms. "You came," he whispered. "I never left," she said. They ran together down the metal corridors, alarms screaming behind them. Guards followed, doors closed, paths blocked. But Serena knew secret ways. Through the old temple ruins under the fortress, they escaped into the deep tunnels, passages built thousands of years ago, long forgotten. Elias limped beside her, still weak. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "Because," she said, voice breaking, "the bond is real, and if they erase it, I lose part of myself." He stopped. So did she. In that moment, he gently touched her hand. The glow returned, stronger this time. Her mark brightened. So did his chest. Their eyes met. "Then we protect it," he said softly. Deep below, in the forgotten heart of the fortress, they found an ancient chamber. Statues of Ithari and humans, together, lined the walls. And in the center, a pedestal held a glowing crystal. Serena stepped forward. "This is the origin stone," she said. "The first soul bond was made here, before our worlds turned to war." Elias reached toward it. The crystal pulsed. And then, both of them collapsed. Visions flooded their minds, of ancient battles, love stories, peace treaties sealed by bonds, and one final vision of a future where they would stand before an empire hand in hand and ask for peace. Above ground, Queen Virea received the news. "They've escaped into the ruins," a guard reported. The queen stared at the glowing image of Serena and Elias. "The bond has passed the first stage," said the scientist. "It will be complete within days." Her hands trembled with anger. "Send every hunter. Search every tunnel. Find them," she ordered. "And if the bond completes," the queen turned, eyes like fire, "then we kill them both." Whispers. In the throne room. The throne room was quiet, too quiet. Queen Virea sat on her cold silver seat, her sharp fingers drumming against the armrest. Around her stood advisors, generals, and noble council members. No one dared to speak first. They had all seen the vision. The soul bond was real. It wasn't a rumor anymore. It wasn't just a mistake between a guard and a prisoner. It was now a threat to the empire. High above the room, the stained glass window flickered with a red sunbeam. A young noble, Lord Cale, finally stepped forward. He cleared his throat. "My queen, with respect, the bond cannot be undone now." "Then we find another way," Queen Virea said darkly. "But Serena is of royal blood," another counselor added, "and the human has done no wrong. If anything, he saved her life." "She is my niece," the queen snapped, "and she is infected." There was silence again. Then a soft voice from the shadows. "Perhaps not infected, enlightened." Heads turned. An old female advisor stepped forward. Her eyes were clouded with age, but her voice was strong. "I've seen this before. Long ago. Before your reign, my queen. The soul bond was a gift." Queen Virea stood. "A gift?" she spat. "It threatens everything we've built. If people start bonding with humans again, if they remember, we lose control." The council remained silent, but the seeds of doubt had been planted. Below the palace, in the ancient tunnels, Elias and Serena rested. Their bodies were tired. Their minds were full of questions. Serena sat by the glowing stone. Its energy warmed the air like a slow-burning fire. "Something happened," she whispered. "I saw it too," Elias said, leaning against the wall. "The past, the battles, the peace." Serena nodded. The soul bond was never about war. It was about trust, between two very different people. Elias smiled. I guess we're living proof. They sat in silence for a while. Then she whispered, They'll come for us. I know, he said. But this time, she added, we won't run. Back in the palace, rumors spread like fire. Servants whispered in kitchens. Guards murmured. In hallways, have you heard? The human touched the origin stone. They say the mark shines brighter now. They say Serena smiles when she hears his name. Some saw it as madness. Others saw it as hope. Among them was a young guard, named Rylan. He had once trained with Serena. He remembered her laughter, her strength, her honor, and now she was being hunted like a traitor. He didn't like it. That night, Rylan snuck into the archives. He read the old records. He found the truth the Queen had hidden. Soul bonds once saved the galaxy, and now it could happen again. The next day, Queen Varaya ordered a full military hunt. Seal the lower tunnels, she commanded. Bring them back, dead or alive. But in the shadows, Rylan moved with quiet purpose. He sent a message, a small old radio signal, encoded with a forgotten warrior's call. In the tunnels, Serena's communicator buzzed. She opened it and heard only 2 words, you're not alone. That evening, Serena and Elias found a hidden chamber behind the old statues. It was once a war room. Maps still glowed faintly on the walls. This was where they planned peace missions, Serena said softly. Elias walked past the old screens, touched a dusty banner. It showed an Athari and a human, standing side by side. Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside. Serena raised her staff. Elias readied a pipe, but the door opened slowly, and Rylan entered. Serena froze. You? He smiled. I serve the Queen. But I remember the truth. Behind him stood 5 more, guards. They dropped their weapons and bowed. You're not fugitives, Rylan said. You're leaders now. Back in the palace, Queen Varaya felt the tide shifting. My people still fear humans, she muttered. But her advisor warned, they also admire courage. And your niece has it. The Queen's eyes narrowed. She will not return willingly, she said. Then what will you do? The Queen turned to the sky. Then I will call for Judgment Day. Let the people decide. In the tunnels, Serena and Elias stood before a small gathering of rebels, Athari who believed in unity. Rylan spoke. The Queen wants to hold a public judgment. She wants to shame you, break the bond. Let her try, Elias said. Serena turned to the group. If they want a trial, she said, then we'll give them a truth they cannot ignore. They all nodded. For the first time in years, Serena felt something deep inside. Hope. A bond that shakes empires. A storm was coming, one that didn't ride on clouds or lightning but on whispers and belief. In the city beneath the stars, people were no longer silent. They talked in the markets, in the chambers, even in the outer colonies, not about the Queen but about them, the guard and the human, the forbidden bond, the glowing mark, the impossible trust. Elias and Serena walked through the old tunnels with a growing crowd behind them. What started as a group of 6 had become dozens, rebels, outcasts, quiet thinkers, and even palace workers who remembered a time before fear. Rylan led the way, his voice calm but firm. We must be careful. The Queen watches everything. We're done hiding, Serena said. Elias nodded. If we want peace, we walk into the light. That day, Serena sent a message to the Queen, a formal challenge. They would appear in the Great Hall of Judgment, not as prisoners, but as defenders of the truth. The Queen accepted and ordered a massive audience. The day of judgment came. The Great Hall was enormous, walls made of crystal and stone, high domes filled with echoing whispers. Thousands gathered, nobles in high seats, soldiers lined in rank. Even the outer colonists watched by hologram. The Queen sat on her black throne. Her crown was heavier than ever. Serena entered first, dressed in the old warrior robes of her ancestors. Her head was high, Elias followed, dressed in simple gear, but with a calm strength in his eyes. The soul bond mark glowed brightly on both their skin. Gasps echoed through the hall. Some cheered, some looked away in fear. The queen raised her hand. Silence fell. "Serena of House Valrex," she said, her voice sharp. "You are accused of bonding with the enemy. Do you deny it?" "I do not," Serena replied. "You betrayed your bloodline," the queen snapped. "No," Serena said. "I honored it," the crowd murmured. "And you, human?" The queen turned. "You infected her, broke into our ways. How do you plead?" Elias stepped forward. "I didn't come here to steal anything. I was captured, beaten, locked in a cell. But Serena, she gave me kindness." He looked at the people. "She saw me as a person, not a weapon." Someone in the audience clapped. The queen's face tightened. "This bond is poison," she shouted. "It will destroy everything." Serena turned to her. "No. You destroyed everything. The old stories, the ancient peace, the memories of what we were." Elias didn't bring poison, he brought truth. Then, something happened. One by one, members of the audience stood. A farmer from the outer moons, a palace cook, a young soldier, even a council elder. They all raised their hands. Their marks glowed faintly, hidden soul bonds that had never been revealed. "We exist," one said. "We've always existed," another whispered. "You just buried us," the elder added. Elias and Serena looked around in awe. There were dozens. The bond wasn't rare, it was silenced. Queen Viraya stood in rage. "You think this show changes anything?" Serena walked forward. "I think it already has." The queen's guard stepped in. The crowd tensed. Rylan moved his hand to his weapon, but the guards paused. They looked at one another. Then, one by one, they stepped aside. No orders. No violence. Just choice. The queen stood alone on her throne, platform breathing hard. "You will regret this." Elias looked at her calmly. "No. You will remember this." Later that evening, the palace sky dome opened. Ships flew across the horizon, not for war but for peace meetings. Alien ambassadors from nearby stars came with white flags. They had seen the bond. They had seen the change. Serena sat beside Elias. "On the highest balcony, it's just the beginning," she said. He smiled. "That's all we need." Their hands touched. The mark glowed again. Brighter than ever. Not with fire. Not with fear. But with understanding. The Queen declares war. The throne room was dark now. The great hall, once filled with light and voices, had turned into a cold, silent tomb. Queen Viraya sat alone. The council had left. The people had turned. And Serena, her own blood, stood with a human. She looked down at her hands. They trembled not from fear but from rage. "She thinks love is strength," she whispered. "But I was made a queen through power. And power never bonds." In the shadows behind her, General Jor stepped forward. "My queen," he said, bowing low. "Shall I prepare the royal guard to retake the city?" "No," she said coldly. "Prepare the sky cannons. Prepare everything." His eyes widened. "Everything? You'll destroy the capital?" "If I can't rule this empire," she hissed, "no one will." Down in the city, Serena stood beside Elias on a raised platform. Crowds gathered around them. Lights from ships above blinked like stars. Peace talks had begun. A new council was forming. Different voices, Athari and human. Speaking for once. Not at war, but at the same table. Elias looked around amazed. "It's happening," he said. "They're choosing peace." Serena smiled gently. "They're choosing something bigger than fear." But then the ground shook. The sky turned red. A huge explosion burst through the palace roof. The queen had declared war. Serena grabbed her staff. "She's going to destroy everything." Elias turned to the guards. "Evacuate the civilians." Get them underground. They moved fast, but the Queen was faster. In orbit, the royal fleet moved into position. Massive cannons began to charge. Their glowing barrels pointed at the capital. A deep voice echoed across all channels. This is Queen Varaya. The bond is forbidden. The price is fire. Panic spread through the streets. People ran. Ships scattered. Serena stood tall. She's lost her mind, Elias said. No, Serena replied. She's just afraid. Afraid of us? She's afraid we're stronger than her, without ever lifting a weapon. Elias paused. Then we need to stop her. Not with force, but with the truth. Serena nodded. But first, we survive. The Biedade city's defense systems were still under old control, loyal to the Queen. But deep underground, Rylan and a team of rebel engineers worked fast. They reconnected the defense grid. Old shields flickered, barely stable. Rylan shouted over the noise, "We have maybe one shot. If we can overload her ship's main core, we can force a shutdown." Elias looked at the screen. That gives us time. Serena stepped forward. Then I'll go up there. No, Elias said. We go together. They boarded a rebel shuttle, silent and swift, and flew into orbit. The stars above were filled with warships. But one massive battleship floated in the center, black, sharp-edged, glowing red at the core. The Queen's flagship. Elias and Serena landed on a side deck. Inside, the halls were empty, cold. The lights flickered. She's waiting for us, Serena whispered. They entered the throne chamber. There, Queen Varaya stood at the window, watching her empire burn. So you came, she said softly. We came to stop this, Serena replied. You came to end me, the Queen said. Admit it. No, Elias said, stepping forward. We came to remind you. The Queen turned slowly. Her eyes burned like suns. I ruled through fear, through silence. I kept the bond hidden so my people would need me. You kept them from the truth, Serena said. The truth, the Queen spat, is weakness. Then why are you alone? Elias asked. That hit her. For the first time, the Queen's face changed. Not anger, but pain. You don't understand what I gave up to wear this crown. No, Serena said, but we're offering you something better. Step down. Let the people lead. The Queen looked at them. Her hands glowed red with power. Then, she stopped. She looked down at her hands and saw nothing but age and regret. I could kill you both right now, she whispered. Serena stepped forward. Then do it. Silence. But the Queen didn't raise her hand. Instead, she turned and slowly walked to her throne. She sat down. I have nothing left. Elias placed a small crystal on the ground. It glowed with the bond. You do now, he said. Let the people choose. Hours later, across the empire, a vote was held. Not with guns, not with armies, but with voices. And when it ended, Queen Varaya stepped down. For the first time in history, peace won. Serena and Elias stood under the twin moons that night. You think it's really over? He asked. No, she said. It's just beginning. Their hands touched, and as their bond glowed between them, the stars felt closer than ever. The choice that changed the stars. The war was over, but the real battle was just beginning. Not with weapons, not with blood, but with rebuilding trust. One broken piece at a time. The people had spoken. The throne was empty, and the old queen had disappeared into the shadows of her fallen palace, her crown left behind on a silent stone seat. Now, across the empire, something strange was happening. Itharian humans were talking, not as enemies, not as rivals, but as equals. Elias stood on a platform high above the city of Lisvar, the new capital. Below him, hundreds of thousands stood waiting. Some wore the robes of peace, some the armor of the past, but none held weapons. They came for answers, for a future. Serena stood beside him, calm but steady. A new council had been formed. It was still fragile, still unsure, but it was real. And now, they would lead together. Elias spoke first. "I never came here to be a hero," he said simply. "I didn't come to fight. I was captured, broken, and alone." He looked down at the crowd. "And yet, I was given kindness by someone I was told should hate me." He turned to Serena. She didn't see an enemy. She saw a person. Serena stepped forward. Her voice rang like song through the air. "Our bond was forbidden, called dangerous, but danger didn't come from us, it came from fear." She held up her wrist, the mark glowed brightly. "Now we carry this bond not as a curse, but as a bridge." In the crowd, people wept, not because of pain, but because they remembered old stories, forgotten memories, ancient truths buried by war, and now, uncovered by love. Later that day on the starship Unity, representatives from over 40 planets gathered. Humans and Athari sat side by side for the first time in over 300 years. Elias looked around the table. "We don't need to agree on everything," he said, "but we need to agree on one thing. Peace deserves a chance." Serena smiled. "Let the bond be our guide." One by one, each representative pressed their seal into the treaty crystal. The glow spread. A new federation was born. In a quiet moment that evening, Serena and Elias walked through the old ruins of the first bond chamber, the same place where their souls had first linked. Elias knelt and touched the ground. "I thought I'd die here," he whispered. Serena touched his shoulder. "You were reborn here." He looked at her. "Do you think people will really follow this? Peace, I mean?" She nodded slowly. "We didn't give them orders. We gave them a choice, and that is more powerful than any throne." A few days later, a small ceremony was held. Not for a queen, not for a king, but for two guardians of peace. Elias and Serena were named voices of the bond, not rulers, but keepers of balance. They would travel to new worlds, settle disputes, guide young leaders, and protect the truth of the bond. The stars turned slowly above them. Serena stood by the ship's window watching distant suns blink in the dark. Elias joined her. "Where to next?" she smiled. "Wherever they need hope." He grinned. "That's everywhere." Their hands touched once more, and the bond flared again, not just on their skin, but in the space around them. Because something strange had happened. The bond between them had begun to spread. Across cities, across cultures, across hearts. Now, children spoke of the two who glowed. Now the galaxy had a story it wanted to tell. Back on the old throne world, in the deepest cave, Queen Varea watched through an old crystal. She saw the peace, the unity, the bond. A single tear rolled down her cheek, not of regret, but of release. She had carried the weight of fear too long, and now, she finally let it go. Epilogue. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Borders faded. Languages mixed. Soul bonds became common again. Not just between lovers, but between soldiers, scholars, explorers, and somewhere among the stars a ship called Unity glided quietly, glowing like a dream. Inside it, two souls, once enemies, walked side by side. Not rulers, not gods, just Elias and Serena. And every world they visited remembered the same words. Peace is not weakness, it is the bond we choose.